Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the country marks the 5th year since the Philippines won the arbitral case against China, debunking Beijing's 9-dash claim in the South China Sea. Also, a former Supreme Court justice urges President Rodrigo Duterte to better enforce the Hague ruling by naming maritime features in the West Philippine Sea. Retired Supreme Court Justice and former Solicitor General Francis Jardeleza joins us live. And later, Metro Manila mayors will decide on outdoor places for children after the IATF allows kids as young as 5 years old to go out. Pediatric infectious diseases expert Dr. Anna Ong Lim tells us more live. It has been 5 years since the Philippines won its arbitration case against China at The Hague. The 2016 arbitral ruling debunks China's sweeping 9-dash claims in the South China Sea. But the enforcement of the ruling remains to be a big challenge amid Beijing's continued incursion in Philippine waters. A former Supreme Court justice thinks this can be solved through a new baselines law naming maritime features in the West Philippine Sea. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have retired Supreme Court Justice Francis Jardeleza. Justice Jardeleza, it's good to have you again. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning.
So, the anniversary of our win before the arbitral ruling, 5 years later, in your opinion, how has this landmark decision actually changed the landscape in, I'll be particular, the West Philippine Sea?
The tribunal ruled that the 9-dash line claim of China is completely not acceptable. But it ruled that the so-called Spratlys Island group is composed of rocks, meaning all the features in the Spratlys Island, or generally the South China Sea, is composed of rocks. The technical meaning of rocks is none of the features has a EEZ, or none of the features can claim a 200 nautical miles EEZ. So in simple terms, all that they can claim if they are rocks is a 15 territorial mile sea. If they are in fact submerged, they cannot claim any territorial sea. So in very simple terms, if there is a need to determine the metes and bounds or the measures on sukat ng territorial sea of the features named as islands. It's as simple as that.
Right. So here's where you were saying that one way to actually assert our claim is to amend what is called the baselines law. Apparently, the president, from reports coming out, has actually ordered his legal team to look into this proposal of yours. In order to, from my understanding, this is important to be able to comply with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. So before we actually go to how important this is, why must this be done? And what is the baselines law?
The baselines law is a law which measures the 200 nautical miles that we have from our baselines. That's the extent of the sea over which we have the so-called sovereign rights. Okay. For example, from Luzon, you measure 200 nautical miles from the baselines. Okay. Now, the importance of the tribunal award is with respect to these small features. These are really rocks. For example, Pag-asa Island. It is not an island in the technical sense. So it does not, it's very important, It does not have 200 nautical miles. The tribunal said it is a rock. So it has only 15 nautical miles. Okay, so the present law that we have does not measure the territorial sea of Pag-asa, nor of these other features that we claim. So it's very important for us that we have now, now is the time that we have a law to measure by specific metes and bounds the extent of our territorial sea, of all the features in the contested area, so that we will know which part has a territorial sea. For example, Pinky, we now send our Coast Guard, and I think the government's policy now is to send our women officers, and then they will use a bullhorn to tell an intruding vessel, please stay away because we are within our territorial sea. For example, if you talk of Pag-asa. So to help our Coast Guard, to help our Navy, to help our Air Force, we urgently need to define which is our territorial sea.
Justice, you're going to have to forgive me because there was a big chunk there that I was not able to hear. Maybe the last minute or so. Could you kindly repeat that so I can understand better?
The importance of amending the baselines law is that we are now, for example, sending our Coast Guard patrol, and we are fielding women officers,
right,
to shoo away the intruding vessels. So how will they know that the territory is part of our territorial sea? They have to have the baselines from, for example, Pag-asa. 12 territorial miles from Pag-asa, defined by law, is the territorial sea of the Philippines.
So can I give you another example here? What about, for example, the recent incident in Marie-Louise Bank and even in Sabina Shoal? Of course, Sabina Shoal, that happened a couple of months ago. As you were mentioning a while ago, that was our Lady Coast Guard who radio challenged the Chinese vessels that actually shooed them away from Sabina Shoal.
Well, the principle is the same, Pinky. If, for example, Sabina Shoal is, we define what is the territorial sea of Sabina Shoal, and then we are there, we say, please get out of the 12 nautical miles because this belongs to us. So there is clarity, it adds clarity. Now, of course, what if a reef is also claimed by another party? What if another country occupies a reef, for example? Then arguably they may have the 12 nautical miles. Then maybe our Navy will have a policy to steer away from the 12 nautical miles. But the complication is that we have 200 nautical miles, no?
Right.
Our territorial sea. And some of these reefs are within our territorial sea. So again, it's important for clarity to determine the metes and bounds, the sukat of which territorial sea begins from what baseline.
Understood. Justice, we need to take a very short break. The source will be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today, retired Supreme Court Justice Francis Jardeleza. Justice, what I want to find out is, in the event that the baselines law is amended, for example, if that happens, would that be acceptable, for example, to number one, UNCLOS, or the international community?
Yes, because first, that is what the tribunal told us to do, to clarify our baselines. Number two, under principles of international law, effectivity is it's not a matter of who comes in to a feature. For example, it doesn't matter who comes in by force. You have to come in legally. You have to have administration. You have to have proof that you are there. So we are there in some of these features. So it is important that we clarify it by means of a law. So we are complying with UNCLOS, we're complying with international law, and we are complying with the award which we won.
So my question is, if that is so, that was the recommendation, why haven't we done it?
Well, that's why I am voicing my opinion now that we should do it now. Maybe our Congress just had many other priorities. But that's why we are saying that before the term of President Duterte ends, we should do this to enforce the win that we had.
Should the president certify this as urgent? Should he say Congress pass this into law as soon as possible?
Well, that's what we are suggesting, that if the president can please certify this as urgent, we do not know when it will be passed, but it will certainly pass before his terms end and the next year. And then we have also a proposal that the 2012 Modernization Act of the Armed Forces be also revisited, because we also need to see whether we have sufficient ships, armaments to protect our interests.
As a last question, Justice Jardeleza, apart from this baselines law, is there anything else that we can do to be able to enforce the 2016 win or the 2016 ruling?
Well, there are many, as you would say, suggestions on the table, Pinky. But we humbly submit that the baselines law amendment is the most practical, least costly amendment. For example, there has been a move to sue China, to sue Xi Jinping before the International Court of Justice. That is a international criminal court. I mean, that will not cost us anything. It will put to jail the alleged perpetrator of the island buildup. We are asking for billions and billions of reparation, but is that the way to go? Now, there are some proposals that we should go to the United Nations, that we should have many countries with us. Again, that's another proposal. We are not saying, Pinky, that our proposal is the only proposal. That is why we are asking that the president look into it, and he has ordered complete staff work. There are many other proposals, Pinky.
All right. Retired Supreme Court Justice Francis Jardeleza, sir, good to speak to you again, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.